Hi guys, bringing you to chapters 19 and 20 of Classroom 13. Miss Donahue left you off on Friday with chapters 17 and 18. So I will pick up here, chapter 19, titled Dev. Here we go. Dev's whole life revolved around video games. He'd go to sleep playing his PlayStation and move over to the Xbox when he woke up. On his way to school, he played his portable Nintendo. He also had over 100 games on his phone for playing in between and sometimes during bathroom breaks. "Are you pooping or playing video games in there?" his dad would yell at the bathroom door. "Both," Dev answered. So when Dev got his check for over $1 billion, he knew what he wanted: to level up to virtual reality. His thumbs were getting tired of all the button mashing anyway. A store-bought VR system was not going to cut it for Dev. He wanted to live his life inside the most sophisticated virtual reality world money could buy. So he found the greatest video game designers in the world and hired them. "I want to live in a video game," Dev said. "For how long?" one game designer asked. "Forever," Dev said. "But what about sleeping or eating?" another game designer asked. "Or, going number one, or, number two." "I'll be doing everything in this game world," Dev said. Then he handed his check over to the game designers. "Now get coding." The game designers worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to finish Dev's virtual world in just 1 month. Many nights they skipped sleeping to make Dev's deadline. To meet his demands, they skipped over some tiny details, but they could always add stuff later. "Are you done yet?" Dev snapped. "Not quite," the designer said. "We need to add a save function." "Don't bother," Dev said. "I'm never leaving this game." Dev stepped into the VR suite and turned on his new world. He couldn't believe his eyes. The virtual reality was so crisp and so clear, it was like being in the real world, only way better, because it wasn't real. In VR, virtual reality, Dev could fly like Superman. He could build castles with a wave of his virtual glove. He could fight monsters, drive race cars and rockets, and shoot up killer robots. He could even nap on a virtual cloud. And when he had to use the restroom, well, he just went wherever. The VR suite took care of the stuff. Dev's VR was everything he could ever dream of and more. He ate virtual pizzas, rode virtual roller coasters, went on virtual quests, and met virtual friends from his favorite video games. In his game, there was no school and no chores and no nagging parents. And best of all, every day was an adventure. Out of nowhere, Dev could sorta hear someone yelling from back in the real world. He didn't want to deal with it, whatever it was. He wanted to play his game. With his glove, Dev turned up the volume. Now, all he could hear was the cool techno music of his latest mission. Suddenly, the virtual world around him vanished. There was nothing but black in every direction, until a blinking red light appeared overhead. Big capital letters appeared in the VR. "No save file found. Progress lost." Dev removed his VR goggles, returning to the real world. He was ready to shout at the VR game programmers. Instead, he screamed. He was surrounded by electrical sparks and a small fire. The programmer sprayed him and the VR suite down with fire extinguishers. "What happened?" Dev cried. "Sorry, little dude," one of the programmers said. "The system overheated and caught fire." "But the game is okay, right?" The VR programmers shook their head. Dev sighed. It was officially game over for Dev's virtual world. Now he was stuck in reality like the rest of the people on the planet. Oh, poor Dev. Chapter 20, Ethan. Ethan Earhart's parents were both lawyers. He hoped one day to grow up to be just like them. Ham or turkey? Paper or plastic? Boxers or briefs? Everything was something that could be argued, and he loved to argue. 6 times 9 is 54, Miss Linda said. Objection, Ethan yelled. This is not a courtroom, Ethan. This is math. Numbers don't lie. 6 times 9 is 54. But how do we know that for sure, that numbers don't lie? Isn't a 1 lying about being an odd number? It does not look at all odd to me. In fact, it looks rather normal. One might say it looks fair or even. But 10 looks odd. That's not how math works, Miss Linda said. I disagree. That doesn't prove that numbers lie. I beg to differ. Ethan was not doing this to be rude. Quite the contrary. Ethan was trying to be judicious, which meant showing good sense. No, it doesn't, Ethan said. Yes, it does, I honestly said back. I beg to differ. Well, let's agree to disagree. Hey, wait, why are you debating with me? I said. I'm the narrator. Argue with your friends. I'm just a voice in this book. Anyway, after Ethan found he had $1,037,037,037.04 to spend, his first idea was to buy a hot air balloon. After all, he'd always wanted to fly in one. Ethan was in a wheelchair, but he wouldn't let that stop him from seeing the world or becoming the world's best lawyer. But as usual, Ethan began a list of pros and cons for buying a hot air balloon. Pro, flight, seeing the land from up high. Cool story. Cons, height, falling to my death, birds trying to steal my lunch. Over the next few days, Ethan argued with himself. He was so stuck on this topic that he went back and forth, arguing both sides of buying a hot air balloon and not buying a hot air balloon. He asked other students their thoughts. Buy a comic, Fatima said. Buy a cat, Emma said. Buy a fart, Liam said. No, I don't want any of those things, Ethan said, especially the last one. After days without sleep, Ethan found himself yelling, "Objection!" at himself. Finally, he found one more pro, then con, and that settled it. He bought a hot air balloon. That weekend, Ethan withdrew the remaining $1,036,987,037.04 and loaded it into the balloon's passenger basket. Before boarding himself, he debated, with himself, about whether he should fly east or west first. And of course, that debate took a long, long while. While Ethan argued with himself, the balloon broke away, with his money and without him. A strong gust of wind caught the balloon and blew it up into the air. "Hey, that's my balloon!" Ethan yelled, but then argued with himself. Is it, though, or does the balloon own itself? Ethan watched as his hot air balloon and his fortune disappeared into the clouds. The balloon made global headlines the next day. Apparently, every time the wind blew, the sky rained money. All over the world, people watched for the money balloon, calling it a wonderful, beautiful miracle. Ethan begged to differ. And I will stop there. Mrs. Morse will pick up tomorrow with chapters 21 and 22. Have a wonderful day, guys. Get outside. It is beautiful. We talked about that this morning at our Google Meet. Post some pictures of anything you get to do outside. That's fun. And we'll see you later. Bye.